Hey everyone, you're here with Kirk and Brad from Pick Dawgz, and we got a new show for you guys that I'm really excited about. It's called the Prop Shop. How you doing, Brad? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man, I am doing good. Man, last night was the first game of the season. We both had the under. We'll take the push. We'll take the
Yeah.
push. I wanted to win. I thought we had it like going into the fourth, and then the Chiefs just kind of took off there, and it is what it is. But it was a good start to the NFL season. It was exciting, and I'm ready to give out some props, man. I think this is going to be a good, valuable show for the people who like betting props. I know I do. I know there's a lot of those prop apps like Prize Picks and things like that are more legal around the United States. So this will be a good show for those people as well. So yeah, man, I'm just ready to get into it. How you doing?
Good. I mean, definitely, as you said it, that Isaiah Likely touchdown at the beginning of the fourth was kind of brutal to start off, but
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, props are growing in the U.S. and all these apps are starting to get legal all over the U.S. So I love some props, and there's so many ways to make money these days. But let's just get into it. Before we get into it, actually, hop on board our premium plays. We've both been really hot lately. I know Brad's been killing college football. I've been doing well in soccer, but we got some massive NFL and college football plays this weekend. So put us together for the 2-for-1 capper promotion and get a ton of picks and start off September on the right foot. But anyways, let's get into it. First play of the day. We're looking at the Cardinals versus the Bills. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, and before I go into this, the kind of format of the show is we're going to give out one prop each for each game of the slate. So we'll just go game by game. But for this first one, I am looking at Trey McBride over 49.5 receiving yards. I do expect a big season from McBride. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he will get a lot of attention from defenses this season, which McBride will be a solid safety net for Murray this season. He averaged 10.2 yards per catch last season, so it shouldn't take too many receptions to hit this line. And also, the Bills are 6-point favorites in this game. I do expect the Cardinals to be playing from behind, having to throw the rock a lot. So this number just seems a bit too low. So I'll take Trey McBride over 49.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I like Trey McBride this year. Definitely have a lot of stock on him in fantasy football. And yeah, I think this show is also good for fantasy. If you like playing fantasy, these are some guys you could target as streamers or something. I think Khalil Shakir is actually a very good streamer here in week one if you're playing fantasy. But I'm looking at 50 plus receiving yards for him at plus 125. He's the number one option in that offense. I know they have Matt Collins, they have Keon Coleman, they have Curtis Samuel, but none of those guys have played with Josh Allen, and he's passed for 4,283 yards in all of his past four seasons. And with no Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis, that's about 1,800 yards that need to be made up somewhere. Khalil Shakir, he was getting some chemistry with Josh Allen late in the year and put up some numbers. So 50 receiving yards in a game that has a high over under. I do think they'll be ahead, but Khalil Shakir should at least get 50 yards. We're getting pretty good value here. So give me that prop in this one. Next, we head over to New Orleans for the Bryce Young second year.
Yeah, man, and I'm looking at Deontay Johnson. It looks like we're both kind of targeting him for this game. I think this Panthers offense is going to be much better. Bryce Young, having a second year under his belt, and the addition of Deontay Johnson, I think we see improvements for this Cardinals team. We all saw what Adam Thielen did with this this Panthers team last year with Bryce Young. He actually put up numbers in the beginning of the season. So I think Deontay Johnson takes over that number one spot, and he's able to be very productive in this offense. So I think this is a spot where we won't see Deontay Johnson's receiving yards line this low for the rest of the season after this game. So this is kind of a buy low spot for me on him, and I think he has a solid season with this Panthers team.
Yeah, no, definitely. As you said, I mean, we're going through every game. So some picks we like more than others, but this is one I think we both really agree on. And I'm going with Deontay Johnson over 4.5 receptions. If he gets the 5 receptions, he'll probably get the yard. So make sure you do your line shopping. If you want to go with the receptions, look at Brad's numbers as they're probably a little bit better odds, but they're both not juiced too much. And Deontay Johnson's a guy that could definitely get 160 targets this season. So if Bryce Young is making those strides as we've heard he is making in the preseason and with his coach and with his offensive staff, I think Deontay Johnson's primed for a big year. So I'm going over 4.5 receptions in this one. And now let's go over to another exciting matchup between Caleb Williams and Will Levis.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to look at Will Levis, and I'm going over his passing yards, over 233.5. I expect Will Levis to have a Sam Howell type year as Sam Howell did last year, where they're not winning a lot of games, but he's still putting up big numbers. They don't have much of a run game losing Henry. They come in with Pollard and Spears, which are kind of more of pass catching running backs. So I think Will Levis is going to get a ton of passing attempts this season and a ton of passing attempts this game. Their wide receiver core, they got some veterans in the room with Ridley, Hopkins, and Boyd. So I just expect a pass heavy offense from the Titans. And I think this is just going to be a year where Will Levis kind of lights up the stat sheet a bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I definitely think Will Levis is being really undervalued. And this whole Titans team, a lot of people are saying they're going to be the worst team in the league. I don't believe that. I think they get at least 6 wins, and I think the worst team's going to have probably 4 or 5, maybe the Pats or someone like that. But I'm looking here at Caleb Williams' first game here with DJ Moore under 62.5 receiving yards. Caleb Williams is coming into this one. He has got 2 new wideouts as well, Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze. We did record this yesterday, but had to re-record, so I do know how to pronounce Rome's last name now. And DJ Moore, he had a great season last year, but there's just so many guys on this offense. They have DeAndre Swift now. They want to get him going as well, and they're favored by 4.5 points. I think this is a game where the ball just gets spread out. They try to run the ball, get Swift acclimated, get Caleb Williams acclimated. I don't think he'll be taking a ton of deep shots in this one, as they should probably win this game, so there's no need for those long Hail Mary passes where DJ Moore would be really well. I think he looks more short-term to Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen in his security blanket. So I'm going DJ Moore under 62.5 receiving yards. And now we head over to another interesting quarterback matchup between Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud.
Yeah, man. And I'm going to look at Anthony Richardson here, and I'm actually going to go under his passing yards, under 226.5. Anthony Richardson, he is getting a lot of hype coming into the season. But I'm just going to be completely honest. Me personally, I'm not sold on his throwing abilities yet. I'm sold on his athleticism. He's a hell of an athlete, but I've watched this guy all throughout his college career at Florida. I watched this guy at the beginning of his rookie year. I watched him this preseason as well. When it's actually game time and he's playing in these games, he misses a lot of throws. It kind of looks sloppy. I think he is a guy who will fill up the stat sheet when it comes to rushing yards, and he'll be a dynamic player. But I think it's just a bit too early to see his passing yards line this high. So I'll take my shot with the under 226.5 here.
Yeah, I definitely think Anthony Richardson's going to try to get back into the rhythm of things with his legs, as he didn't really look that good preseason throwing the ball. But I'm looking here at Joe Mixon over 14.5 rushing attempts. It's not a sexy play, but I'm trying to get you guys some money here. So Joe Mixon, he's a volume guy, and they're going to try to bring him up to speed here. First game of the season, he averaged around 18 to 20 carries per game last season when the Bengals were winning, and the Texans come into this one as 2.5 3-point favorites. And it's not like they have a Jalen Hurts guy who they're going to just push into the end zone. They're giving the ball to Mixon within the 5-yard line, letting him do his thing. And this is a total that's up there with some of the highest in the week. We're going to see a lot of points, and Mixon should get a lot of carries, as now they have Tank Dell healthy, Nico Collins, and acquired Stephon Diggs. That should open up some running lanes for Mixon. So I'm going with Mixon over 14.5 rushing attempts. Next, we head off to Florida for the Jags versus the Dolphins.
Yeah, man. And I mean, this Dolphins offense should be another fun one, as we saw last year. And I'm actually going to target one of the running backs here, and I'm going to chain over 54.5 rush yards. I think this is going to be a Chain's breakout year. I mean, it kind of was last year, but he had injury problems. When this guy's healthy, he was the most explosive running back in the league. As Mostert gets older, I think he takes a backseat, and I think this becomes a Chain's backfield. So, I mean, with his explosiveness, he could get this in damn near one rush. Last year, when we saw a Chain get more than eight rush attempts, he cleared this line in 6 of the 7 games he played. So I think this number is a bit low. I think this is another one of those spots where we're not going to see a Chain's rush yards this low. So let's take advantage of it. Give me over 54.5 rush yards for a Chain here.
Yeah, definitely a guy that can really break a lot of tackles, is really fast. And with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as the receivers, that just even opens up more lanes for him. And I think the Dolphins score at least 3 touchdowns here, which is why I'm looking at Jason Sanders over 2.5 PATs made. Dolphins were one of the highest scoring teams in the NFL last season. And if it's around a 4th and 2, I think Mike McDaniels is going for it. He doesn't like to kick field goals too much. So I'm looking here at Jason Sanders over 2.5 PATs. I think they get at least 3 chances. Whether he converts all 3, that's a different question, but I'm banking on that. And now I think we probably go over to one of the ugliest games of the first week between the Giants and the Vikings.
Yeah, this one shouldn't be too pretty, but we still got one very talented guy in this game, and his name's Justin Jefferson. I'm going over 81.5 receiving yards. Look, I know Sam Darnold is starting for this Vikings team, and that makes us concern a little bit about Justin Jefferson's production, but he's still one of the most talented players in any position in this league, and I think he still absolutely eats this season. Jordan Addison, it looks like he is questionable. So if he doesn't play, even if he does, I expect 10-plus targets from Jay Jettis in this one. He averaged 116 receiving yards in games he played last season. This Giants secondary doesn't really scare me. Don't really worry about the Sam Darnold thing, guys. Justin Jefferson will still put up numbers this year. So I'm going to take Justin Jefferson over 81.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, when you're that talented, we saw it with Garrett Wilson last year. He put up over 1,000 yards, and I don't even remember who his quarterbacks were, but they weren't Aaron Rodgers. So Justin Jefferson should have no problem. And the Giants, they actually don't have the worst defense, I will say, but I think this is a low-scoring game. And the Vikings have a rookie kicker in Will Richard, and I'm going with his prop of over 6.5 kicking points. That's 2 field goals in the PAT. I could see this like a 16-10 game for the Vikings or something like that. So I think this is pretty safe here. I think the Giants will keep this lower scoring, and Richard will definitely have his opportunity to get some field goals on the board here. So that's my prop in this one. But as I said, don't really love this game too much and probably won't be tuning into this one. And I probably also won't be tuning into my hometown Patriots against the Bengals because it's just going to be ugly.
Yeah. For this one, I am going to look at a Patriot here. I'm looking at Henry over 2.5 receptions. It is juiced up at minus 140, so it could be a parlay piece for you guys if you don't want to play by its own. But I think it is pretty safe. I just don't see how Henry doesn't snag 3 balls in this one. The Patriots will be down pretty much this whole game, as I expect that. So Brissett will need to throw the ball. Brissett, he's an all right quarterback, but he will need to use his he will need to use his kind of escape valve, his safety net. And Henry is a guy who knows how to get open. And I think he could be a good security blanket for Jacoby. So 2.5 receptions is nothing for a guy like Hunter Henry. I think it's a safe play.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know why this says Joe Mixon. I swear I looked at all of them before I posted them, but we're already mid-recording, so we're going to go with it. I'm going with Joe Burrow under here. They're the biggest favorites in under passing yards at 259.5. They're the biggest favorites here in week 1. And Jamar Chase, he's questionable. He's injured if he's playing. They have new guy Zach Moss, who they want to get a lot of carries to so he can get the feel of this offense. And Burrow, they don't want to rush him to get injured. He's been hurt a lot. So if they're up, they're going to take it easy. They're going to run the ball. 260 passing yards here in week 1 against the Patriots defense. That's actually pretty good. I'm not buying that. Take the under in that. Hopefully the graphics are better for the Steelers versus Falcons. Yep, they look correct. So let's get into that one.
Yeah, man. I'm going to look at Tyler Algier here, and I'm going to go under 28.5 rushing yards. To simply put it, I just think this is Bijan Robinson's backfield this season, man. I think Tyler Algier is going to get limited rush attempts. I think he may be a goal line guy for this Falcons team, but when it comes to the 3-down back, that is going to be Bijan Robinson. This Falcons team does have a lot of mouths to feed, and I just don't see Tyler Algier being one of those mouths to feed, that being a priority for this team. So I just don't think Algier will get the opportunities. He's not that explosive to get over this number here. So I'll take the under 28.5 rush yards here.
Yeah, and with Raheem Mostert as their head coach now, he was a running back in the day. He'll see how talented Bijan is, and Bijan's going to have a great year, I think. But I'm looking at here on the other side with Najee Harris over 53.5 rushing yards. He really, really played well at the end of last season, and I think that momentum carries into this season. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, they're both running quarterbacks, so whoever's playing, he should get more open lanes here in the running game, and they want to have a chance of being the Falcons. I think they got to slow down the game, run the ball, pound it into the ground, and Najee Harris really showed that he should be getting a lot more carries than Jaylen Warren late in the season, so I think Najee has a big game here and goes over his rushing total in this one. Now we head to the 4:05 slate. After the 1 o'clock slate, we have about 8 games, 1 o'clock, 4 games in the 4 o'clock, and a Sunday night football game.
Yeah, I'll say with this Broncos-Seahawks game, man, it was tough to find some good player props in this one. One that kind of caught my eye, though, that you could get at plus money is Courtland Sutton over 4.5 receptions at plus 120. I mean, really, my analysis for this one is pretty simple. This wide receiving core for the Broncos is very thin. They have Cortland Sutton as that number one target, and then Josh Reynolds and Marvin Mims. So I just expect Cortland Sutton to get a ton of target share for this team. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those spots where this is one of the lower reception totals for Cortland Sutton this year. Bo Nix is going to need to have that guy, and I think Cortland will be that guy. So for this first game, I'll target the over receptions in this one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna look here on the other side as the Seahawks are about 6.5 point, 6 point favorites against the Broncos. They're playing at home, and a lot of guys are on the Zach Charbonnet hype train, but I think Kenneth Walker, this is his backfield, and he's gonna show people why. I'm going over his rushing total at 67.5 rushing yards. They're gonna be in control of this game. Kenneth Walker showed last season when he's healthy, he really is a good runner and one of the most talented backs in the league, I think, and I think he's gonna make a big leap starting here in week 1. So that's my prop for this one. Now we head to LA for the Raiders versus the Chargers.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Gardner Minshew here. Give me under 217.5 passing yards. I actually think Minshew will have a decent season, but I just don't think we see him light it up in this first game. We all know with Harbaugh, taking reign over the Chargers, he's going to want to give this Chargers team more of a defensive identity. So I just think we see a game where both teams are kind of more heavy on the run side of things. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, gritty type of game, and 217.5 just seems a little bit too high for Minshew's first game. So I'll take the under there.
Yeah, fair enough. I definitely think Harbaugh is going to establish that defensive identity as you talked about. It's probably also not going to be the most fun game to watch here, but I'm going with my first touchdown prop of the season at pretty nice value. Gus Edwards to get in the back of the end zone. It's going to be Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins in the backfield for the Chargers. They're about 3 point favorites, but they're going to try to establish these two running backs. They were in the same system as the Ravens guy who they came over and have as a offensive coach, I think so. So if they're at the 2-3 yard line, they're going to give the ball to Gus Edwards. He scored 13 touchdowns last season for the Ravens. And J.K. Dobbins, he's a guy who can break loose, score a 50, 40-yarder. But if it's within the red zone, you're giving the ball to Gus Edwards, and we're getting good value here. So I'm backing him to find the back of the end zone in this one. Now we head to a pretty big matchup between the Cowboys and the Browns.
Yeah, man, I'm just going to go take the easy route in this one and go Dak to get an interception. I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Dak. We all know how good this Browns defense is. I think guys like Myles Garrett and this Browns defensive line is going to continue to get at Dak, force him to make some bad throws. And let's not forget, man, this Cowboys team, they brought back Zeke. This Cowboys team is just not going to have much of a run game. So I think they're going to be extremely pass heavy. Dak's going to be throwing a ton of balls. And I just think with this Browns defense, he's going to make a mistake at some point. So I think this is another good parlay piece because it is a little bit juiced up. But Dak Prescott to throw an interception seems pretty safe for me.
Yeah, and I agree. I kind of have a similar prop. I think they're going to have to pass the ball a lot because their run game is not going to be established. But besides CeeDee Lamb, I'm not confident in any of these wide receivers against a pretty good Browns secondary last season. I think one of the probably top 5 best defensive overall going into this season. So I'm going with Dak under 246.5 passing yards. I think this is a lower scoring game, and he doesn't have many of those big plays against this Browns team. So you can parlay these two together and get a nice plus money price if you want. For our last 425 game, we head over to Tampa.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna look at. I'm a Bucs fan, so I may be biased here, but I am a massive Mike Evans fan. I think to get him to score a touchdown anytime TD at plus odds is an absolute steal. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he's one of the wide receivers who could do it all. He could do the short game, the deep ball, great goal line wide receiver as well. He's coming off a 13 touchdown season last year. Him and Baker seem to have good chemistry. And also, man, I'm not too worried about this Washington secondary either. So I think he torches this Washington secondary. So, give me Mike Evans to score a touchdown. Nice, easy, and simple.
Yeah, he's definitely been underrated and undervalued for a while. So I definitely like that, especially at plus money. I'm looking here at Jaden Daniels, over 38.5 rushing yards. We saw Lamar Jackson in the opener run for about 130 yards. Not saying Jaden Daniels is Lamar Jackson, but I think they kind of have some similarities where his feet are going to do the talking early on in his career. His passing might not be great, but he's shown that he can get out of the pocket, run around. And I think these Bucks defenders are going to chase him around. I think he gets at least 40 rushing yards here in his opener and keeps the Commanders in this one. So that's going to be my prop as we head into the Sunday night football game, which should be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game, and I'm going to target a Amon-Ra St. Brown. Give me over 83.5 receiving yards. I think we see another massive season from him. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes top 3 or even top 3 in the league when it comes to some of these receiving stats. In 7 home games last season, he hit over this number in 6 of them. And the last time he played this Rams team, he had 110 yards on 10 targets. This is also the highest total of Sunday's slate of games. So expect a lot of scoring. Expect the stars to be in action. I think this is a great spot for Amon-Ra. So give me Amon-Ra over 83.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I love Amon-Ra. I think he's even going to take that next step to be considered probably one of the top 3 receivers after this season. But as you said, really high over-under in this one. And Kyren Williams, I really think he's going to get back in the end zone. We're only getting hit here at minus 115. McVay said he's going to be a kick returner, but he also said Blake Corum's going to be a punt returner. So we all know we have to take whatever he's saying with a grain of salt. Kyren Williams was one of the nice surprises of anyone really last season in the NFL. And high total like that, Rams should probably score 2-3 touchdowns. One of them will go to Kyren Williams. So that's going to be my player prop in this one. I really appreciate you all of you guys watching the show, as we're happy to do it for you guys. And let us know in the comments what you'd like us to improve. If you think you like the format of the show or anything else, we're open. And thank you, Brad, for coming along. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, man, it was a good show. I'm excited to do it throughout this season. So yeah, everyone watching, stay tuned. We're going to be continuing to do this, and yeah, that's it. Let's have a good season.
Yeah, have a good one, and peace out.